Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Hi everybody, welcome to the garage. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Peter Clayton, as usual, is behind the camera. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. Pete?
Yes?
Do you eat scones?
I do.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah. I found this, which is kind of interesting because it's afternoon tea week. I got a week or a day for absolutely everything you can think of, and I'm quite sure a few things that you couldn't think of. But it's afternoon tea week. Around the world, ladies and gentlemen. Now, it says here, the great British scone debate is settled. Food scientists finally reveal whether you should put the jam or the cream on first. Pete, what do you think?
Well, I put the jam on first.
Well, I'd put the jam on first. You spread the jam on the scone, then you put a dollop of cream on the top.
Yes.
I can't see how it would work the other way around, but let me read you this. People from Devon are adamant that the cream belongs on the bottom, yet Cornish residents maintain that the jam should be slathered on first. It's been a most hotly contested debate in the UK since the early 1500s. Must really want something about which to debate. When it comes to scones, should you put the clotted cream on first or the jam on first? People from Devon are adamant that the cream belongs on the bottom, yet Cornish residents maintain it should be the other way around. Afternoon tea lovers across the rest of the UK are torn between both sides of the argument. To help settle the debate once and for all, the afternoon tea week, they spoke to food scientists, 3 food scientists. Let's see, looking down here. One of the most hotly debated topics in the UK since the 1500s. Scones are thought to have originated in Scotland back in the early 1500s and have since been a staple feature of any decent afternoon tea. Yes. But despite being just 100 miles apart from one another, these two counties have very different opinions. In the hope of getting to the bottom of the debate, researchers from the Centre for, well, I suppose, Foodology, conducted a scientific experiment to assess the spreadability of clotted cream and jam. Must have wanted something to do. Anyway, their analysis reveals that clotted cream is more viscous and rigid than jam, which means more effort is required to induce movement. Pete, what do you reckon?
Well, that sort of makes sense to me.
Yeah?
If they're talking about very thick cream, I think that's what they're talking, clotted cream. I've never heard of it.
But jam, I mean, you make jam, don't you?
Yes.
Well, jam can't be, jam is much more.
Well, they're saying clotted, they're talking about clotted cream. It must
We are wasting time!
very thick. We are wasting time, sorry.
Can you imagine anyone since 1500?
I'm still putting jam on the bottom. That's it.
Well, I'll put jam on the bottom as well. As if it matters, as long as it's a scone with jam and cream. I mean, for heaven's sake. I mean, it's pretty simple, isn't it? I listen to a lot of radio, ladies and gentlemen, mostly these days 3AW or 2GB, because on your ordinary mobile telephone, there's something like 200,000 radio stations that you can tune into, which is pretty amazing. But I listen to the ABC as well. Last night on news radio, in fact, here in Adelaide on my old frequency, the frequency I used to own, 972, they carried a story for no other reason, presumably, than to promote the Labor government's policy on EVs, electric vehicles, electric cars. It wasn't news. It wasn't true. The sale of electric cars are now 10% in Australia. Now, where is that figure? Show me. Hybrids, maybe? You know, a lot of people, when they buy a car, they lease it. I've done that. It's a very sensible thing to do. The leasing companies take very seriously the residual value of the vehicle, that is, the vehicle at the end of the lease. 3, maybe 4 years. With electric vehicles, it is almost nil. Nothing. Zip. In other words, you can't lease an EV. That's a news story. My question is, would the ABC simply do a ridiculous story like that, or were they ordered to do it? One could be forgiven for thinking that they were either incompetent or just plain silly, or maybe just a mouthpiece for the Labor Party. Let's get it right. Electric vehicles are expensive in the first place. They are troublesome, even dangerous. You know about the battery fires and the fact that people won't carry them in the car carriers around the world, the ships. There are stories about parking stations that won't have them in the parking station because of the risk of fire. Limited in their performance and range, expensive, perhaps even impossible to insure and repair, no resale value, and most car makers have, quite honestly, stopped or deferred their production. I can only think of one company that hasn't, and that's Jaguar. They're going to stop making everything and concentrate on making electric cars. Well, good luck with that. Anyway, for all their problems, we have a government who wants us to buy one. And the ABC doesn't question it. Like climate change, and The Voice, and immigration, and Welcome to Country. They're hell-bent on changing Australia. You won't hear this from the ABC. But the question is this. We have to think before the next election, before we vote. We have to decide over the next few months about all of this. And the court of public opinion will be banging away as we do.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Australian banks have joined forces in the fight against scammers. Good. Well, I guess. Look, we wouldn't have the problem. I mean, this is perhaps a bit simplistic, but I believe we wouldn't have the problem if the banks would just stop pushing the electronic or the online banking. Checkbooks, old-fashioned, but safe and easy to understand. You can't hack a checkbook. You got it in your back pocket or your wallet or wherever. But like bank branches, checkbooks are on the way out. And I think that is wrong. I'm hanging on to my checkbook for as long as I possibly can, believe me. Again, a problem that comes from depending or relying on one commodity or one market. Relying too heavily. I'm not talking about wine. In this case, I'm talking about iron ore, which was earning something like $140 a tonne at the beginning of the year. It's now down to $82 too. I thought I saw probably less than that. I thought somewhere between $79 and $80 a tonne, which will cost the government, over the forward estimate, something like $3 billion in revenue. And which, of course, has wiped out billions of dollars off the value of these mining companies. This is all because of a big downturn in construction and building in China. A downturn in steel production in China. Again, I am thinking, maybe too simplistically, but I am thinking, too many eggs in one basket. Don't do that. You know, whether you're talking about IV fluids, or you're talking about wine, or you're talking about any export that you can think of in this country, or indeed any import, you don't want to be dependent upon one source or one market. Stanford University's breakthrough discovery on aging. Pete, have you heard about this?
Yes, I have.
It was thought that one kind of just grew old slowly, incrementally. But it seems, no, it seems that there are two stages at which aging takes place. Now, I don't know how this information helps, but at the age of 44, how they know 44, I don't know. At the age of 44 and 60, there is a period of accelerated aging. Perhaps if we could discover what happens at these times, we could stop it, or we could slow it down. Two aging bursts. But why? More to come on that. I will keep you across it. But meanwhile, Professor Daniel Gray of the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute in Melbourne is in there looking scientifically for the fountain of youth. Lots of people have done that before. But what he's come up with is this thymus research. Thymus research. Thymus, which is where, I don't know, Pete, sort of there, I think. Yeah. It makes T cells, the production of which, for some reason, slows down after puberty. These T cells are what keeps us young, maintains our immune system, which also could be of great benefit in the war on cancer. Now, I hope to have Professor Gray on the show this coming Friday. I remember having somebody on the program years ago. He'd written a book or done some research on it, and the whole thing was based on the fact that you thump your thymus, you know, like an ape. You thump your thymus like an ape, like Tarzan. Because what it does is give you a surge of adrenaline, energy. I don't know. But the professor thinks it's youth, vitality. You know, but if you look at King Kong, the movie King Kong, with King Kong going up the Chrysler Building with Fay Ray under his arm, thumping his chest. It all fits together. I honestly don't know. Anyway, I'd be interested to talk to the professor about that. Thump your thymus, if in doubt. And on the health subject as well, these new weight loss drugs, well, they didn't start out life being weight loss drugs. Ozempic and Mounjaro, they should be on the medical benefits free list. Now listen to this. The PBS. Now I know this is taxpayers' money. The PBS, which is the Pharmaceutical Benefit Scheme. The reason I say this is obesity is a killer. It is a killer. It leads to diabetes, it leads to all kinds, dozens and dozens of expensive illnesses and health problems. We have an epidemic, ladies and gentlemen, which of course means billions and billions of dollars and hospital beds and everything that goes along with such a problem. Now these drugs, these weight loss drugs, have proven to be very effective. And they have yet another application. Apart from controlling appetite, they can also help curb other cravings. They can help curb alcoholism, sex addiction. Somebody's going to have to talk to me one day about sex addiction. I mean, Pete, how do people get addicted to sex? I mean, I can understand you getting addicted to someone,
Yes.
but that's kind of love, isn't it?
I don't know. It's beyond my expertise.
It's an interesting subject, though. Someone will have to one day explain sex addicts to me. Then there's smoking, and of course other addictions, including gambling. So what a miracle drug. Now these drugs seem to be able to control the wanting. The wanting. Now you can explain to me why that drug isn't the most valuable and therefore the most important drug to have on the PBS. I don't understand it. You know, when you get overweight and you have to have a hip transplant or a knee transplant, all of that, the multipliers of obesity is a huge problem. If I've got time, Pete, on 7:30 there was a story on smart electricity meters. Now here's a story they did get right on the ABC. They were discussing the rort that, in fact, we have been talking about here in the garage in the court of public opinion and around the dining room table for years and years and years. This is the demand charge thing, which comes with the meter. It's ridiculous. If you have a smart meter, sounds good, doesn't it? A smart meter. It enables the power company to charge you at the time electricity is at its most expensive. Now, holy moly, do not allow anyone to install a smart meter in your home is my advice, and if somebody comes to this house, I can tell you I will call the police before I will allow somebody to install a smart meter. And if I've got time, the New South Wales Standing Committee on Social Issues. The Standing Committee on Social Issues. Sounds like something straight out of the Soviet Union, doesn't it? And why are they standing? Why aren't they sitting? Anyway, they've launched a parliamentary inquiry into, wait for it, loneliness. Loneliness? Who hasn't been lonely? It's a normal part of the human condition. From time to time we all get lonely or feel lonely. Now this is typical nanny state stuff. What can a government possibly do to make people less lonely? Now this is only my opinion, but frankly it's up to me to make of life what I will, what I can. My advice to somebody who is lonely? I don't know what you'd say, Pete. Buy a dog. Buy a dog. A rescue dog. A cat. A bird. Even a goldfish. Go for a walk. Take up a hobby. Photography. Buy a camera. Take up photography. Join your local library. Read a book. Go window shopping. I'm just trying to think of things that don't cost any money. Oh, go to the Rising Sun Inn. Always interesting people there to talk to and to meet. That's the Rising Sun, one of our sponsors in Kensington. Join a club. Find a local drama group. Find someone worse off than yourself, maybe. Mentor someone. Find a cause, something you can believe in. Join a political party. Go to...
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free. and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Church? I don't know. Can you think of, Pete?
I think you got it covered pretty well.
Volunteer. Volunteer.
I'd like to buy a horse.
Well, I mean, we've all got to have goals. God, yes, absolutely. But volunteer for something. Your local op shop, Meals on Wheels, always looking for volunteers. Get a list on those wonderful WEA courses, as I used to call them. They're adult education courses. It is amazing the number of interesting things you can go and learn, do a course on. There are not enough hours in the day to do all the things that I want to do. Time is precious, and it's running out. No time to be lonely, ladies and gentlemen. The typical Labour, a parliamentary inquiry into loneliness. What's that going to cost? Look, here's an idea. Learn to enjoy your own company. Pete, do you enjoy your own company?
Well, yes, I guess.
Yes.
But I've got Katie, so I'm okay.
You've got a most beautiful dog?
Yeah.
Yep. And I've got my cars, and I've got my whole catastrophe. It's a time-consuming catastrophe. It's all good fun. Now, let me wish you a happy birthday, or a happy wedding anniversary. This posting, Andy will put out as a podcast on his favourite podcast sites, and you can get this Court of Public Opinion wherever you get your podcasts from, and I hope you will. Of course, what I did was to drop I was going to tell you about this. Just quickly, one of our sponsors. Just don't forget, if you have some paintings that you have some, doubts about, or questions you'd like to ask about, have a talk to these people, Elder Fine Art. They are a worldwide, reputable art organisation. They're art dealers. They've got a fantastic gallery in Melbourne Street, North Adelaide. Their auctions are held 4 times a year, sometimes 5 or 6, depending on how many paintings they have coming in. Lots of people want to sell their paintings. And it all starts with getting an appraisal, and you can do that by having a talk to Jim Elder. Jim Elder on 8267 2869. You want it again? Jim Elder or Helen on 8267 2869. He will give you a free appraisal. Now, you might say when you get that appraisal, wow, I didn't know this painting was worth so much. And you might say, I'm going to leave it right there. In fact, I'm going to put it in a more prominent place. Or you might say, I can't afford to hang that much money on the wall. But it's up to you. Find out. He's always looking for important international and Australian paintings. Talk to Jim Elder, Elder Fine Art, Melbourne Street, North Adelaide. In fact, go in there. They're there all 5 days a week. And just look at the place. Just fantastic art gallery. Happy birthday if you're having a birthday. John Hampton. You ever heard the name, Pete?
No.
He patents Venetian blinds. Why were they called Venetian blinds, I wonder? Anyway, that was 1841 on this day. American inventor William Seward Burroughs patents the adding machine. The Burroughs adding machine, yeah. 1888 was the year. Whatever did they do before adding machines? Which, of course, was the forerunner of the calculator, I guess you could say. Hawaii becomes the 50th state way back in 1959. I thought it was more recent than that, but 1959, the 50th state of the United States. Kenny Rogers, American pop and country singer-songwriter, the gambler through the years. He was also an entrepreneur too. Kenny Rogers Roasters must have been a sort of chain of restaurants, I suppose. Born in Houston. There's a picture over there of Kenny Rogers and me. We might get a shot of that later. He was a lovely man to talk to. He'd always come into the studio every time he came to Adelaide, which was fairly frequently. He died in 2020, sadly, but he was born this day in 1938. Don Everly, who was called Isaac Don Everly. Isaac was his first name? Wow, I didn't know that. American rock and roll singer, guitarist, the Everly Brothers, Bye Bye Love, Wake Up a Little Susie, When Will I Be Loved? He dies at 84 on this day in 2021. Walt Disney's animated movie Bambi is released based on the book by... Pete, do you know? Felix Salten. I didn't know that either. 1942. The animated movie Bambi is released. I saw that. I must have been... Oh, well, it probably didn't come to Australia till the 50s. But I do remember going with my mother and grandmother to look at it. Peter Weir, speaking of movies, Australian director and writer. Witness, Dead Poets Society, born Sydney, New South Wales in 1944. I'll tell you a lovely Peter Weir story one of these days. Maybe around the dining room table on Friday. Maybe. I'll tell you, around the dining room table on Friday, Dennis Walter, who used to sing with Johnny Young's Young Talent Time, and he's now a fantastically successful broadcaster in Melbourne, working for 3AW. He does nights on 3AW. He's going to spend a bit of time in the morning on Friday with us, as I hope you will. Mona Lisa, stolen from the Louvre. Rediscovered in 1913, but stolen this day, 1911. Claude Graham White, English aviator pioneer who was the first to make a night flight. He died in 1959, not behind the controls, I gather, but he was born this day in 1879. Johnson & Johnson ordered to pay $417 million to women who developed ovarian cancer after using their talc-based products. Now, talcum, what family, as I grew up, wouldn't change the nappy and put talcum powder, Johnson's baby powder, on the baby? And then you find out it's carcinogenic? I don't know that they even proved it. Well, they must have proved to the jury's satisfaction anyway that it was carcinogenic, but I don't know. What isn't? What isn't about to kill us? William Murdoch, Scottish inventor. The oscillating cylinder steam engine. He died in 1839, born 1754. Ettore Bugatti, the French-Italian automobile designer and manufacturer, dies at 65 on this day in 47. American country singer Patsy Cline records then struggling songwriter Willie Nelson's song called Crazy. Do you like that?
No, it wasn't one of my favourites.
No, I don't. It's not one of my favourite Patsy Cline songs. But she recorded it in Nashville, Tennessee on this day in 1961. Well, dear old Willie Nelson is not struggling anymore. He's well into his 90s and enjoys life and pot and every excess you could think of. I'm sure he's trying to kill himself. He's much better at singing songs than he is trying to kill himself. Oh dear. Okay, one more. London's Parliament clock, Big Ben, chimes for the last time before a 4-year restoration process for its future life begins. 2017, and it's back up there, chiming quite happily. Thank you very much for being with us, ladies and gentlemen. Do join us on Friday morning, 9 o'clock. All you got to do is go to jeremycordeaux.com. That's the thing you search for. Put it into your search, what do they call it, Pete? Engine.
Yes.
Yeah, jeremycordeaux.com. and you'll find it. Make it one of your favourites. And not only is the live streaming show there every Friday morning, 9 to 12, but when we've done the show, we add it to the list of shows that we've done, which must be getting on for 2 years now. Anyway, they're all there, and they go around and around and around in rotation. You'll never get sick of it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being with us. Peter Clayton behind the camera. Thank you, Peter. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux, and thank you for viewing the Court of Public Opinion.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.